Thank you. This meeting is called to order. Self-reporting attendance, please, starting with Judge Bigley.
Here.
Yep, Barbara Griffin here.
Corey O'Connor.
Sarah Namarato.
Susan Ivashevic.
Rob Perkins.
Bethany Hallam.
Manny.
Thank you. Okay, before we start, I would like to make a motion to amend our agenda to add an item under new business, which is to appoint a right-to-know officer for the Jail Oversight Board.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any discussion? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, community corrections reports, passages to recovery.
Brianna Hanaway, Director of Clinical Services for Passages to Recovery. In June, we had 3 escapes from the facility. We also had 1 revocation. We had 0 transports EMS to the emergency room. We had 4 total discharges. 3 of them were successful completions of the program. 1 of them was released prior to completion. We have 22 clients currently, and we have 18 open beds. Any questions? Yes.
Hi. First of all, what was your name again?
Brianna.
Brianna, thanks. I don't think we've ever met before, so
Never.
I'm glad to meet you. Thank you for being here. First question is, when someone's released prior to completion, because I don't think that's something that I've heard of before, is that something that means like they've satisfied their obligations in their required time?
Yes, to the jail, but not for program completion in treatment.
Okay, so who decides that? Is that a Passage's decision, or does the jail tell you that? Who tells you
The
that?
jail releases the individual, and then we set them up with aftercare, which is a lower level of care of treatment, if that's what they're willing to accept.
At home. Awesome. Okay, and then next thing is, when you say 3 escapes, were those people who were permitted to leave the facility and just didn't return?
We had 1 escape from the facility and 2 were from the community.
Okay, great. And then the revocation, just some broad, undetailed information, like why?
Authorized as a result of a PREA investigation.
Gotcha. Thank you very, very much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I guess I'm just curious about how it plays out when somebody escapes. Like you said, it was 1 who left the facility. Was that person, caught again? Like, how did that play out?
I just received a hearing notice, so that person is incarcerated again.
Okay, I got you. And so, like, does he then go back to the ACJ and then the ACJ deals with it?
Yes.
Okay, I got you. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Renewal.
Good afternoon, everyone. Darren Hood, HOOD, Renewal Incorporated, Director of Reentry Services. Our program numbers as of today, we have a complete of 96 in work release, 33 in inpatient, giving us a total of 129 county reentrants. We have 51 open beds at this time. Currently, there's 27 males in inpatient and 6 females in inpatient. Our employment percentage is around 70%. Our average wage rate, though, is $19.94. Releases to from the first of to the end of the month. We had 54 reentrants exit the program, 33 successful, 13 escapes, 8 program revocations, and some of those were pulled out by the court. Some returned for behavioral issues. There were 0 deaths, 0 non-fatal overdoses, 0 uses of force, 0 self-harm incidents, and 0 suicide attempts. The number of times emergency medical services were called and reported to either building for county reentrance since the last jail oversight meeting was 3. EMS were called for the following conditions. Once for flu-like symptoms, a second time for head pain, and a third for breathing difficulties.
Any questions?
I see so many fire trucks and ambulances at Renewal. I know you said it was 3. I have seen 3 in a day at a time, so I'm just wondering why my observations are so off from yours.
Well, we do have other jurisdictions. You just wanted me to report on a county reentrance.
So when you're reporting to us, you are not giving us facility numbers.
Just those particular to the county,
So there could have been 200 ambulance calls that you wouldn't tell us about.
if they're not county related, correct?
Okay. Well, I guess that's a little, so then are all of your numbers that you're giving us are all based off of county? So like your revocations, your escapes, those are all just the county people?
Correct.
Oh, wow, okay. And what percentage of the facility is county folks?
Like I said, we have 129 total,
Okay.
and we have 51 open beds. We're contracted for 180, so that's the total we have in between 2 buildings.
Okay.
129.
129 people total. Okay, so when you talk about, like, I think you said there were 13 escapes.
Correct.
There could have been 60. Those are just the county folks.
Correct.
Okay, so were these escapes people who were out with permission and did not return? Or were these
Yes.
people who left the facility?
Yes, we have both failure to returns, which they're out in the community on an approved activity, and then we have leave without authorization, people that leave the building, whether they pull a fire alarm or whether they ask to be released.
Okay. And then when you said you had 3 ambulances come. Yeah, I mean, I literally in a day have seen 3 before. So what were those 3? Like, are we talking overdoses? Are we talking heart? Like what kind
One
of
was
thing?
flu-like symptoms somebody was experiencing. I guess it could have been COVID. That's how it's reported to
Yeah,
them.
sure.
One was head pain, which I don't think it was a headache. I think it was something a little bit more than a headache. Obviously, I don't think you would call an ambulance for what we
Like maybe a migraine or something?
could have been.
Okay.
And then the other one, I believe I said was for breathing difficulties.
Oh, yeah, I'm
So it
sorry, I
could have
didn't hear
been
that, I'm sorry.
asthmatic. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Electronic monitoring, thank you.
Hi, I'm Scott Johansson, Executive Vice President, Renewal, Inc. I just wanted to expound on some of the questioning. It's Johanson. Just so you're aware, we do have contracts with the Federal Bureau of Prisons and the State Department of Corrections, who are both housed within 339 and 704 Second Avenue. So it is the case, the numbers we're reporting to the Jail Oversight Board are only under the jurisdiction of the jail. I just want to make sure everyone was aware of that.
Well, I understood that's what he was
Okay.
saying. I just dispute that.
Okay.
Characterization, yeah.
Okay.
Information that should be shared with us.
Yes.
Ms. Griffin?
I just had one thing. If you would tell us a little about, we had heard some complaints to the liaison about some female residents, some complaints and concerns that they were having, and has there been any action on that?
Yes, we've been in communication with Karen DeFallo in regards to some grievances that our our female populations have been submitting to her. Just so you know, Karen DeFallo's phone number and contact information is posted on all the residential units that are under the jurisdiction of the jail. So they have been reaching out to her. We had some requests that we change our medication times, our meal times, and things like that, which we can't change the meal times and medication times because medication times are scheduled around the meal times, and certain individuals, they need food, take medication, things along those lines. There was one individual who had dizziness that we made arrangements. We have a contract with a doctor and a medical manager to make arrangements for that, and there was a request for an ultrasound that we made arrangements for. That was the gist of the complaints. All right, thank you.
Have you had any complaints about personnel?
staff. We do at times get grievances in regards to staff performing their duties, and each one of those is dealt with on an individual basis, and the resident gets a disposition of every grievance.
I got you. Whenever that happens, is there an opportunity to appeal whatever decision is made?
Yes, there's 3 levels of appeal. The first level is their case manager, the second level is their case manager supervisor, and the third level, it would go up to the director.
I just have a follow-up with that. For the folks who are in renewal that are under the county's jurisdiction, any grievances that they file, could you forward over to the board? I'd like to see the grievances filed by the people that you at least
You mean like a
acknowledge as our-
summarization, or?
No, I'd like to see the actual grievances and any results of the grievance investigation.
Yeah, I'm sure we can make arrangements to make that happen.
Yeah, just as a practice going forward so that we can keep track of what's going on there, as you can.
Yeah, I would want to make sure that we have the correct format, because, I'll submit a format, I'll submit our format and the process of doing so.
Okay, and any follow-up actions
And
that
any
were
follow-up
taken to that
dispositions
grievance.
as well.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you. Electronic monitoring?
Good afternoon, Board. Renan Harris for the Probation Office, HARRIS. We currently have 581 individuals enrolled in our electronic monitoring program. Of those numbers, 19 have successfully completed so far, with 3 that were returned for violation of programming.
Questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no public comment on board actions and motions, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 5, 25?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Updates from our committees, updates from incarcerate welfare. Any updates? If there aren't, okay.
I could talk about it now. Well, Manny and I went down, we were on the Incarcerate Welfare Committee together, right? And we went down to watch a video of an assault that happened in the jail that the board was alerted about. And I just wanted to thank the warden and deputy warden and the rest of his team, Major Hintmeyer, who was super helpful. I've been on this board for 5 years. It was the first time I've ever gotten to see video of stuff that was happened in the jail, ever. And so I just want to acknowledge that. Major Hintmeyer was super helpful in not just saying, here's the video, watch it, but play by play going through and showing us all the different angles and explaining what was happening, explaining what had led up to what we were seeing and what happened after that. And so I know that there was a lot of questions about that incident and the response to it, especially as pertained to keeping people in the loop outside the jail of what had happened with that incident. But I just wanted to say that in our capacity on that committee, we did go down and they were very helpful to us and open to showing us information. And I hope there's going to be follow-up conversations about that incident. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And
Health-
we have a second one, too, because I'm on 2 committees.
Well, okay, Health Services Advisory Committee is next. Any updates? Okay. Lockdown and Use of Force Committee.
Oh, just that we had a really great meeting from that, too. Last, 2 weeks ago, the Use of Force Lockdown Committee met with, I think, the warden, chief deputy, deputy warden, just talking about, we had mentioned at our last meeting that we decided that we were going to focus for the time on lockdowns, that seems like the first thing to try to tackle. And it was a very productive meeting and things are going great. Yeah, so thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I would like to say, in my capacity as a member of the Use of Force Committee, I think I would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the recent lawsuit that was filed. Of course, I'm not going to go into any details about it other than what's public knowledge. But AOC filed on behalf of an incarcerated individual. His name is Cush Wilkerson. And I've actually referenced him before. A lot of times I've spoken about the uses of force from people who have reported to me and, the folks that I work with. And I usually refer to him as my homie who got his tooth knocked out. But after reading the full complaint, which I strongly encourage everyone to do, it was even an even worse situation than I thought, unfortunately. Of course, there are allegations. Of course, everybody's going to have their day in court, but the allegations describe it's not just a serious injury, but lasting harm that's going to impact him for years to come. Now, it's important to acknowledge that this incident that the lawsuit is based on occurred prior to the new warden's appointment, and I know he's been working hard to address the culture of violence in the ACJ. We recognize that and we appreciate that, but of course we know work still needs to be done. So again, I encourage everyone to keep representing. I mean, it's up to us as board members, as community members, to advocate for the folks who are inside and continue pushing for them in a way that they can't necessarily do for themselves. Well, that's it. Thank you.
Thank
Send it to
you.
everybody, so you
Well,
guys all have-
and I would just say, if you don't mind me just saying this is what gives me, and it gives me concern when, as a board, we discuss pending litigation, particularly when some members of the board are so closely affiliated with the organization that filed the litigation, and those members of the board are privy to information that is confidential information. So I would just, and again, at least acknowledging that these are allegations. Personally, I've been the target of those, and those allegations have been dismissed almost completely, but reminding people they are allegations. I don't know how that's going to shake out, but again, ongoing, it gives me concerns. Thank you.
And those allegations are in all of your inboxes. I did forward the complaint to each and every board member. I hope you received that, along with all 3 major publications that reported on the allegations. So I hope you all do take the time to read it. It's not that long of a read, and it's pretty jaw-dropping.
Okay, the point being, though, that they are allegations, and we should not be commenting on a board as to whether they are founded or et cetera. That's all? Okay. Next is Employee Welfare Committee. I will report on that. I was invited by County Council Public Safety Committee to attend their committee hearing. Mr. Perkins and I went to the committee hearing. Ms. Hallam was present. I want to make it clear, because this board has not voted on anything pertaining to the transport of incarcerees to medical appointments, that I represented to that committee, that I was there in my capacity as a member of the Employee Welfare Committee and not representing the entire Jail Oversight Board. Or the courts. You were there as a jail oversight. Yes, or the courts. Anyway, we relayed to the committee that it was our recommendation, and it is on the agenda this evening, that the Allegheny County Sheriff's Office take over the transport for all medical purposes, hospital, medical appointments, et cetera. And the motion, which is attached to the agenda, speaks for itself, so I'm not going to read the whole thing for everybody. But basically, the sheriff has the institutional expertise. The sheriff has the training for the safe use of shackles. And finally, it has the added benefit of relieving the staffing shortage at Allegheny County Jail, because I think I announced last month that the jail spends about over $1 million in overtime. That's just overtime, it's not regular wages. And that the average trip, the average medical trip is 10 hours. So that takes 2 COs out of the jail for 10 hours. We all know that we have a severe staffing shortage, and we all also know that lockdowns result from a staffing shortage. So it has an added benefit to the jail in addition to this public safety aspect of it. We also recommended to the County Council Public Safety Committee that if it was not feasible, if it wasn't fiscally feasible, economically feasible, for the sheriff to take it over, that we were going to recommend to this board that the COs be permitted, that they amend the referendum and allow COs to use shackles when doing medical transports. And the thing that I stressed was that allowing this by county council would not defeat the intent of the referendum. The intent of the referendum was do not allow the use of these shackles and various other devices in the jail, because it was to prevent the abuse of the incarcerees. That was the intent. That's why it was done. If we fast forward to today, I don't think anyone would have made the effort to pass that referendum because it's not at issue anymore. But my point is the referendum was to address abuses in the jail. These shackles we propose that they be used out of the jail, okay? Not when they're in the jail. When an incarceree is being transported out of the jail, and the primary concern, which I expressed to the Public Safety Committee, is that inside the jail, the public's not in there. You don't have to really worry about public safety inside the jail. When you're transporting these people outside of the jail, you better be worried about public safety. You better be worried about escape attempts. You better be worried about injuries to doctors, to hospital personnel, to the COs, to members of the public, and finally to the incarceree themselves when that happens. So we're not there yet. Today, this will lead into my motion, and again, the motion speaks for itself. All we are proposing is that the county executive, the county manager, county council study whether it is possible to transfer the responsibility for transporting incarcerees to any kind of medical visit to the sheriff's office. If after that study, it is determined that such a transfer would be fiscally prudent, then we will recommend that it be done. We're not there yet. Nobody's engaged in a study. So we're just recommending that a study be commenced. So that's the motion that I am proposing. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, discussion.
Yes. Thank you, Judge. So part of my role as county executive is to, protect the rights of incarcerees and also balance that with the safety of the residents at the ACJ, the workforce at the ACJ, as well as the public safety, all while considering how we are spending public resources and making sure that we are being fiscally responsible. This recommendation has come up a number of times, and I will let you know that the county manager's office is looking at the feasibility and in discussion with the various row officers to see what the cost would be, as well as the feasibility. So we support this recommendation. We support this motion to provide these recommendations to this administration because it complements the work that's already happening.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Just 1.5 points of clarification. No, I'll keep the one to myself. The half is, I just want to be clear, that there is 2 parts of this. It's the first one is to study it. And then the second thing, I don't actually believe we would need a second motion again, because the second one says if the results are what we think they are, we recommend they be transported to the jail. So I just wanted to clarify. I thought what you were saying was a little different than that, and I just wanted to
Thank you.
reemphasize.
You are correct.
I love when you say that, Judge, not gonna lie, but you weren't wrong either. You were also correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion, anybody? Do we need a roll call?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Judge Bigley?
Yes.
Ms. Griffin?
Yes.
Sheriff?
I abstain.
Controller?
No.
Mr. Normorato?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
Ms. Howell?
Yes.
Manny?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, second motion is, as I announced earlier, that we would like to make an appointment of a right-to-know officer, because we as the JOB do not have a right-to-know officer. And I am going to move that we appoint our secretary, who is the controller's office. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion.
Sure.
Nobody? All right. All in favor?
Can we have a roll call vote, Judge?
Sure. Judge Bigley?
Yes.
Ms. Griffin?
Yes.
Sheriff?
Yes.
Mr. O'Connor? Ms. Inamorado?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Perkins?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Warden's report.
Good afternoon, Board. I just want to talk about a few issues and then pass it over to the deputies. We got an opportunity to promote Stephanie Frank, who's a captain, to acting major. We'll bring her up next month. She couldn't make it tonight to introduce her. Stephanie's been there over 20 years, done a great job for the facility. We think it was a good idea to promote her to an acting role. She's done a lot in that facility the last 20-plus years regarding training, getting the facility ready for different audits and accreditation. So we'll bring Stephanie up next month to introduce her to you. On July 21st, there'll be a ribbon cutting ceremony for the book vending machine that we told you about last month. So we'll report back on that again next month to tell you how that went. Maybe 2 months ago, I asked the department heads in the facility to put together a volunteer day. And so last Friday, several of the leaders of the facility went out and volunteered their time in Pittsburgh. And we're going to start doing that on a regular basis to different organizations who need our help. Went really well. And the next one will be, I think, July 21st, I believe, but different staff in the facility, anybody who can go that day, we're going to go out in the community and help at different organizations, and we think that's a good thing to do for our neighbors. We had a meeting last week. I'll let the deputy talk about it if she wants, Deputy Martin. We brought in different counties to talk about medical assisted treatment. Butler County was there, Washington County was there, Westmoreland County was there. We talked about transfers back and forth from the facilities and difficulties or how that's going regarding folks transferring from facility to facility who need medication. Thought that was a really productive meeting to start bringing other counties to our facility to talk about how that can get better as we move forward with all things healthcare, and we just wanted to report that we had several counties come, and we're going to invite more to that. And yesterday, I think it was yesterday we had, last month we had a lot of folks from the transgender community in Allegheny County report about different issues. So we had a meeting with the transgender population in the facility this week. The county executive came to that meeting. We appreciate her presence. Thought it was a really open and honest meeting, lasted over an hour, and we're going to continue those conversations with that population. We pretty much did all the listening for the most part, and we plan on continuing that conversation and that dialogue and inviting some of the leaders that were here last month to the future meetings. So Deputy Martin's going to talk about that meeting and a few other things. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board. The Foundation of Hope is accepting book donations for the jail's library, so anyone that's interested in donating softback books could go to the Foundation of Hope's website at foundationofhope.org for additional information. Any support we would get from that would be definitely appreciated. The TAILS program began on June 11th when the first dog arrived to the facility. Ethel, who has since been renamed to Ellie, is a 2-year-old mixed breed dog. She arrived to the jail tail wagging and very excited to meet everyone. She's adapted very well, and her training program is going great. The incarcerated population and employees have really enjoyed spending time with her. You can read about her first day on the news section of the jail's website. For those interested in adoption, you can go to Animal Friends website to apply. On June 16th, 4 new reentry providers began providing services in the jail. Foundation of Hope is providing activities and resource coordination. Awaken Pittsburgh and Maya are facilitating mental and physical wellness classes. And the Prison Society is facilitating relationship building and maintenance classes. All the classes have received very positive feedback from the incarcerated population, and we're looking at adding in additional resources throughout the month of July. On June 23rd, in partnership with our colleagues at the Allegheny County Health Department, the jail hosted an overdose prevention pop-up resource event. The event took place outside of the jail's visitors entrance. Community organizations came to provide information on a variety of resources, families coming for visitation, individuals being released from the jail, and staff from the jail were able to participate in the event to learn more about some of the rich resources that Allegheny County has to offer. June 6th was the last day of school for the juvenile population. The Education Department hosted a family end-of-year celebration where loved ones were invited into the jail to tour the Education Center. Families met with each teacher, learned about what the students did throughout the year in a parent-teacher style meeting, and students were able to show off their hard work throughout the year. After the tour and educational overview, yearly awards were provided to students who've made exceptional educational strides throughout the year. Trinity Services provided a luncheon, and families and students spent time with each other to celebrate the school year. The summer education program began on June 16th. That concludes this month's report for programs. Deputy Martin will provide the healthcare services update.
Good evening, Board. Just to go over a little bit more what the warden was talking about, we did get to meet with, the 3 different counties that we most frequently transfer back and forth with. Our medical director was there, the HSAs from the other facilities were there, and it was a really good conversation to talk about continuity of care as a whole, just, not just with the MAT program, but how do we communicate better with each other of if somebody going back and forth needs to change medications in that regimen, and, how do we get transfer sheets better to each other and like the key contacts for everybody at each facility. So it was a really good conversation that we had. In regards for gender affirming care that we provide there, we do offer and provide continuation, and we also started doing induction of HRT services. We meet with the individuals on arrival to discuss current needs and where they are at in their process. We meet with the operations staff to discuss any safety concerns that the individuals may have. And then we also have a staff member that got hired through AHN. She is the project coordinator of patient care for the LGBTQ plus health program, and her role is to come in and help support and provide resources on release. For other exciting news, myself, one of the DHS staff, and our methadone provider director have submitted a presentation and has been accepted at 3 large conferences this year. We will be talking about our MOUD and MAT challenges to successes since we started back in 2016. We'll be presenting data to support the programs, leveraging partnerships, and the start of methadone clinics inside of a jail. We are looking forward to giving this presentation at the NCCHC Mental Health Conference this month in July, at the ACA Conference in August, and at the National NCCHC Conference in November. To say that ACJ will be focused or be able to be across the country in 2025 is so exciting. And to be able to talk about a program that we've been working so hard for so long on to show successes is super exciting for us to do. With that, I wanted to give you a snippet of the timelines because we did start back in 2016, and it's been almost 10 years now until we got this program fully up and running. So in 2016, we started with MAT for our pregnant individuals. In 2017, we started with oral naltrexone, continuation, and induction, and Vivitrol injections prior to release. 2020, we did oral buprenorphine for continuation. 2021, we started the injectable buprenorphine continuations. 2022 was methadone continuation. 23 was the injectable buprenorphine inductions. And then in 2025, we started methadone inductions. So to say it's been almost 10 years of a lot of challenges. So we are super excited to put our process and our programs and how we achieved all those different challenges over the years out to essentially the whole country, to anybody, attending those conferences. And then lastly, I'm really happy to announce, and I gave you guys all a pamphlet before we started. Sheriff, I'll get you at the end of the meeting here, that our SUD team has got creative in their ways to increase our participation in our programming. So they created a flyer. It was sent out to the whole incarcerated population on our tablets, and then we also have handouts for when people are meeting with our SUD providers. And we have significantly increased our numbers already. They have been working hard to, with the operations team to get the added staff needed and the different times needed to, increase all the groups. So we are now successfully doing groups multiple times a day now, just not the once a day. And that's the end of my report.
Hearing no questions? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
More of a comment, thank you. Warden, I just want to thank you and your leadership team for convening the trans population yesterday at the jail, and thank you for including me in that process as well. It was really, I think, cathartic for those individuals to be heard and, have their frustrations and concerns taken very seriously, and I'm sure that will inform some changes at the jail. The other thing that I realized upon one individual sharing their story was that they were actually able to start HRT at the facility and expressed a lot of gratitude in us undertaking that option for individuals who enter that facility. So just want to thank you for listening, for hearing folks. And, we asked them kind of what providers they're used to outside of the facility. And, I think that there's an opportunity to bring more programming and resources into the facility. So just thank you again for being open to that and for hearing people out.
Questions?
One.
Good.
I have one question.
It is a holiday.
Well, the new administration and new board has made my access to information so great that I have few things I have to talk about here, Judge. So I just have one question, and it's kind of tying into something that we were talking about earlier. But I was wondering if you guys or somebody could speak to like the evaluation of the policies about notifying families whenever an incident happens to their loved one in the jail. Like, what's the current policy? Has anything been updated recently? And is there any plan in the future to change that more?
We're evaluating all policies. We're going to look at everything. We understand that's an ongoing issue for notification. We do have the safety concerns about corrections officer and the deputy sheriffs as they take them out. As of right now, we're not making any moves. Unless it's a serious medical condition, a life-threatening medical condition, the family will not be notified.
Is that true even if the incarcerated individual has designated an emergency contact next of kin when they came into the jail?
It is.
Still no information is shared with them?
No.
So so you're saying like basically only if the jail is gonna try to petition the courts to release them from custody because the person's potentially gonna die is the only time that would happen now?
No, if the medical provider determines that it is life-threatening, then we'll start the process for the family notification.
Is there anything, I come into the jail, okay, I'm arrested, I come into the jail, and is there anything that I can do when I come into the jail so that if something, like currently, so that if something happens to me, you can let my family know? Like, is there some kind of waiver or designation that I can give to a family member of mine?
We do the emergency contact only when it's life-threatening.
Okay, but what if I want them to know if I go to the hospital for a not life-threatening but kind of serious thing?
We're not going to give them advance notice of that trip, and we won't let them use the phone when they are notified.
Okay, so what do we do with like family? I'm sorry, I really did say one, but this is really just an extended one. My concern is that what I have seen as a board member, repeatedly over the years, is families are getting information. They're getting information from other incarcerated people or other sources in the jail. That information is not always accurate and has led to a lot of concern of those, for their loved one who's in the jail. What can we do? Is there any plan to address that?
We've all fielded calls from the family members assuring that the reports that they're not getting, where they are getting from other people, are not true. And if it is a life-threatening event, we will notify them. And that's determined not by security, not by the administration, but by the medical provider.
And when the medical provider is evaluating life-threatening, is that truly what it sounds like? Or does it have to be a risk of death?
Yes.
That's how it's determined. Maybe that's something we can
Yeah,
work on. Go ahead, Rob. I'm done.
I was going to suggest, maybe that's something we can talk about in the subcommittees and look at what other jails are done. It is a really important issue, and I understand it both ways. And, maybe make sure we define those as much as we can and give as much information as we can consistent with security, but we can look into, I think it requires a lengthier
I think so,
conversation.
too. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just have a few questions. There was a public comment submitted online about the ventilation in the jail. It says basically, lack of airflow. Of course, it's hot these days. I know you sent an email recently. I'm having some issues. I can't access it on my phone. But I know you've been addressing it. Can you talk about what's been done?
Yeah, so I think last week I sent that email to the board. We had a day and a half, almost 2 days. It was excessive heat is when it was hot everywhere, but we had excessive heat. We went around, took temperatures on the units, took temperatures where the officers work, in the cells, in the common areas. It was over 80 degrees in most of those areas, low 80s. So we had facilities come down. I thought they did a great job assessing it. They found a mechanical issue with some belts that broke on the handlers. They ordered those, fixed those, and within 24 hours, the complaints started to wane and the temperatures came back down. That was 2 days last week, I believe.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So going back to something that you said about the program, and you mentioned like an overdose prevention pop-up. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Did you mention what organization participated?
I don't have a list of all the organizations. There was about 10 to 15 different organizations that participated, and it was overdose prevention, harm reduction, a variety of services that are in the community that could help support folks as they're being released, or, resources for loved ones. And like I said, staff from the jail were able to participate and get to meet some of these providers and get information on what services that they offer. We did this last October, and we plan to do it again this fall as well.
That's great. I think that goes a long way, especially for the, continuation of care that you mentioned. I think that means a lot. I was really surprised to hear about, CEOs or staff members going out and volunteering in the community. I think that's great. Can you talk a little bit about how that went? Like, what type of things were they doing?
Yes, the first event was last Friday. They went to People's Oakland. They helped set up some food. They cleaned grills, got ready for their meal for the day, fed meals. I think took care of some plants and things that needed some attention there. Those are the kind of events we're going to start doing. Initially, full disclosure, when we talked about this a few months ago as a proposal, I kind of thought it'd be a one-off, maybe once or twice a year, but this group of employees said they want to do it all the time as much as possible because the need is in the city and the county. So they have another one scheduled for the end of the month. I can't remember the name of the organization, but I think what is it? Same one. But they're looking at different ones, help with meals, help with cleaning. The ones that I've been involved with in the past, mostly in Harrisburg, were planting trees, painting, cleaning. Those are the kind of things we're going to do. We figure that, personally, I can only speak for me. I think that we're pretty blessed to have those jobs, and we should be able to help the neighbors if we can.
That's great.
That's why we're doing it.
I really appreciate hearing that. Is, engaging the community in a way that's a little different than how they typically would engage. I think that can go a long way for community relations. My last question is about the TELS program. Of course, we've met some folks who have spent some time with the dogs, and of course, you said, is it Ellie now?
Yes, it's Ellie now.
It's Ellie now.
We let the handlers rename the dog. So
Okay. Yeah, Ethel's
Animal
kinda
Friends,
weird.
she's still Ethel. So anybody looking to adopt, on the website, her name will be Ethel, but in the jail, her name is Ellie.
I got you. Yeah. Are there any plans to expand that program?
Yes.
Okay.
We are having discussions with Animal Friends about expansion.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see. All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
One thing, Judge. Well, it's just a comment to correct the record from earlier. There was a statement made earlier about public safety, and I just wanted to remind folks what come out of that public safety committee meeting that you guys were at was that there is zero evidence whatsoever that exists from the jail or from the county or from anywhere that there has been any increased risk to public safety as a result of no shots.
Because the old warden wardens kept no records. So as I explained to the committee, all you will hear is anecdotal evidence, no statistical evidence, because there isn't any. Okay, John
That would put us in
Costanowitz.
violation of state law if that's
John
the case.
Costanowitz, come on up. That's what I said. Oh. I know.
Hands-on interventions with our residents. Let us start from a place we can all agree on. I think we can all agree that officers using hands-on interventions, violating a resident's space, is something we all want to avoid. Advocates do not want this, officers do not want this, and residents certainly do not want their physical space violated. Instead of talking about the tools, the history of the tools, horror stories about the tools, let's not even talk about the tools. Talking about the tools before we talk about the emergent situations required intervention is like putting the cart before the horse. A major concern we all have is that K2 and other drugs like K2 is a reality at our jail and continues to be a reality at our jail. Our security intervention unit looks for evidence of drugs like K2 on cameras and deciphering residents' code messages. The following three situations can occur concerning drugs like K2. 1, evidence of K2 in the cell requiring a search, which can lead to a physical resistance by the resident. 2, a group of residents assaulting a resident in the resident's cell over a drug issue. 3, a resident's very bizarre reaction to the synthetic drug, clearly not at baseline, where it is evident the resident is a danger to self or others. Another situation. At intake, a resident appears to be in an altered state of mind and has headbutted a healthcare staff and is resisting treatment and intervention. Verbal de-escalation has not been successful. The resident appears to be at risk to further headbutt staff. Another situation. Residents need to be transported to the RHU and is violently resisting transport. Verbal de-escalation has not been successful. Can this situation be delayed where the resident will be redirected? After a point in time, when is another intervention necessary? How will the resident be transported? Another situation. The resident has bit into his arm and has slipped handcuffs off and is escaping in a hospital room. What will be the best intervention at this point? Once we all understand and agree and establish a common ground on what situations our officers are confronted with, then we can start talking about appropriate interventions. Frontline officers sitting down and meeting with the use of force JOB subcommittee is something that I think will improve out of time. Okay. Well, you could, well.
Thank you. Brian Engler.
Good evening, Board. My name is Brian Engler, and I'm president of the union at the jail. Just to finish what John was going to say is, it's important for the Use of Force Committee to meet with the officers at the jail. There are multiple parties involved in the use of force, medical, the inmate, and the officer, and the staff. I've requested to meet with Councilwoman Hallam and Mr. E. to have anything on the use of force. What kind of notes, meeting notes, would you like to sit and talk with officers? That hasn't happened. Being on the Use of Force Committee and not wanting to talk to people directly involved is like wanting to run for dog catcher, but you're allergic or afraid of dogs. It makes no sense. Just to let you know, we are going to move forward with our agenda initiative to obtain a majority of vote from County Council to get our initiative on the shackles in play. I provided evidence of 13 escape attempts in the last 12 months to that safety committee, everybody there, including the media. Since January of '24, we have 62 escapes from alternative housing of county inmates. 62 escape attempts. We had one in June where the guy went and killed a woman. There was no manhunt for that man. The general public wasn't made aware of it. But we've had 62 escape attempts from alternative housing since January of 2024. We all know the county machinery runs very slow. This initiative concerning the study of the hospital runs might take some time. People waiting on urgent care don't have time. I think Councilwoman Hallam touched on how important family notification is in urgent medical situations. You know, they want the family notified. You know what else is urgent? Getting that person to the hospital for urgent care. We've had people removed from housing units and ready to go for 911 runs in 5 minutes or less. We don't have that kind of time. And just to touch, and I was going to skip this part, but I'm not going to. You wanted to know how inmates' families are notified if there's a bad situation. If one of my officers is in a near-death situation, the warden or the duty officer, the shift commander has to notify the duty officer has to notify the county police in case there's an investigation, then they have to call the chaplain, then the chaplain has to come in and they're being directed to call that officer's loved ones. So the chain of command that you guys have for inmates for their families to be alerted that they're in severe medical injury or even close to death, ours is even worse. Our loved ones won't know probably for an hour and a half to 2 hours. The policy is 9 steps to get my officers' loved ones notified that they were severely injured or even dead. 9 steps. 9.
Has that ever happened?
Once. Officer Yellowshawn was bleeding from his head. He was in an altercation in a cell. He had a severe concussion. His wife didn't find out for almost 4 hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Tanisha Long.
All right, I feel like I have 35 things to say, so the beginning of this might be very quick. The first thing I would like to say is that it's inappropriate to comment on the intent of people who wrote the referendum. As someone who was one of the people who helped pass this referendum, I can tell you our intent was the continued care and safety of incarcerated people, and that if we needed to write this referendum today, we absolutely would, and we absolutely would bring it forward. So I believe those comments are more appropriately made by the people who helped craft, pass, and circulate the referendum, which again, were incarcerated people, formerly incarcerated people, people from the community, and people who really care. Second, the Abolitionist Law Center is not your enemy. We actually work really well with members of the board, and I think it's inappropriate for any member of this board to imply that other members of this board cannot be trusted just because they work with us. We all have a shared goal, or should have a shared goal, of making things better for incarcerated people, and I think that's why we have a better relationship with the jail. I think that's why we have a better relationship with the board. I've sued this whole entire board before, and I'm not petty with any single one of you, so please keep your petty comments about the Abolitionist Law Center out of your mouth. And since we are talking about the Abolitionist Law Center, I am here as a representative of the Abolitionist Law Center. I'm not an attorney. What I would like to say is that we have severe concerns about attorneys' rights and access to their clients while they're in the jail. When they're visiting incarcerated people, the incarcerated people do not have the ability to bring their papers to the jail visit with them. Notes that they have taken, things that they have remembered, things that they would like their attorney to know, they just have to remember off the top of their head. I've not seen this happen in any other facility. It's actually insane. When we're talking about the lawsuit filed by the Abolitionist Law Center on behalf of Coach Wilkerson, who was assaulted by COs, we are talking about a man who is telling us of his sexual trauma, his psychological trauma, who may have gaps in his memory. This man was assaulted by COs. He was assaulted by Sergeant Sarver. He was sexually assaulted by Sergeant Sarver. When I heard what happened, it gave me images of buck breaking. Stuff like that is stuff that he will have trouble remembering if he can't bring his papers to his attorney. Another thing that is important, and another thing we need to think about, is that if families are not being notified about the condition and state of their loved ones, they just have attorneys to rely on. If attorneys do not have unfettered access to their clients, then they cannot verify the condition of the person they are visiting. If you're visiting someone on the medical pod, you're having that conversation not only through the door, but in the presence of other incarcerated people and COs. You are not having a private legal conversation. You are violating their legal rights. At no point in the Allegheny Jail's process of lawyer visitation are they having confidential conversations, and that gives me grave concerns about their legal rights and the confidentiality of their case, but especially on the medical pod, where no less than 2 COs were listening to a private medical conversation.
Time's
Thank
up.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica Colbert.
I'm here today to speak on behalf of my cousin, Otto Harris, and to call out the brutal, inexcusable attack he endured and the disturbing lack of communication. Action and empathy shown by the Allegheny County Jail in the aftermath. Otto was viciously attacked by 14 inmates in an assault so severe that both staff and other inmates believed he would not survive. His heart did stop beating. For more than 24 hours after the attack, our family was left in the dark. We were forced to rely on rumors, some saying he had lost an eye, others claiming he had passed away. We were made to call after call to the jail, myself, his sisters, and no one would provide any information. It didn't matter who we were, how many times we called, we got silence. In desperation, we turned to social media, pleading for any kind of update. Finally, with a social media post 27 hours later, someone from the jail called and confirmed Otto was alive. That's it. No further information. We'd already confirmed what hospital he was at. We weren't trying to break him out. We just wanted to know he was still here. The jail's utter lack of humanity, compassion, and basic decency toward the loved ones of incarcerated people was loud and clear and deeply painful. It was a life-threatening situation. As I stated, he had passed away. The medical team was able to save his life. The attack was preventable. There was a prior altercation between Otto and another inmate where blood was drawn and the jail was aware. At that point, action should have been taken, individuals separated and monitored, but nothing was done. And what followed was a coordinated, brutal attack. Otto was outnumbered and beaten. While others stood by, medical help took 7 minutes to arrive after a 5-minute assault during which Otto could not defend himself and was at one point unconscious, his body limp, and his neck in a disturbing position. That's not just a lapse in safety protocol, it's neglect. Since his return to jail custody, Otto signed HIPAA and medical release forms as soon as he returned, specifically naming me, and yet my request for information went unanswered for weeks. Attorneys tried to visit him and were denied private access to him as well. A clear violation of his rights. Today, June 3rd, the day of this meeting, we finally received a call regarding Otto's medical status and records. The call came not from the jail staff or the warden, but from an aged employee who works in conjunction with the jail. We learned that Otto's injuries were far more extensive than we had even realized. But even so, the simple act of somebody calling us, explaining things, and acknowledging our concern brought some reassurance and relief. That's all we wanted: acknowledgement, clarity, and basic human decency. Still, we have not received a single response from jail staff or the warden. Otto complained of chest pain. It was dismissed as muscular. I was on the phone with him when he complained to the nurse about it. She didn't even put it in the report for the nurse that came in after her. Nobody knew that he complained about chest pain. Otto may not matter to the jail, but he matters deeply to us.
Thank you.
You did a good job.
Justine Rose.
Can I read for her? I'm not sure she can get through it.
I'm sorry?
Can I read for her? I'm not sure she can get through it. This is Otto's sister.
Well, let's let her try, because our rules are that
Okay.
you can't read for other people.
Good afternoon. My name is Justine, and I'm Otto's sister. I'm here today not just as a concerned family member, but as a sister who's hurting beyond words. What happened to my brother, the brutal beating that he endured at the hands of 14 inmates, is something that no one should ever have to experience. But just as disturbing has been the way the jail has handled the situation afterward, the silence, the indifference, and what I can only describe as complete disregard for his life and his loved ones. Otto is my big brother, my oldest brother, a part of my whole world. And ever since the day of the attack, I've been physically ill. I haven't been able to sleep. I have barely eaten. I walk around with the constant weight on my chest wondering, is he okay? Is he in pain? Will I get another call? The situation has consumed our entire family. We are suffering emotionally, mentally, and physically. The uncertainty, the silence, the refusal to communicate with us, especially during a life-threatening situation, was cruel and unnecessary. For more than a day, we didn't know if he was alive. We were forced to chase down rumors and make desperate posts online just to get anyone to respond. And when the jail finally did call, 27 hours later, they gave us nothing, no details, no comparison, just a cold acknowledgement that he had survived. And they understand, but he survived. At that point, we already knew where he was because we took it upon ourselves. This is not how you treat human beings or their family. Otto is not just another inmate. He's a brother, an uncle, a protector, a motivator, a man with a huge heart who's always been there for us. He has been there for my entire life and family. And when things go wrong, when life is heavy, Otto is there. But now that he's the one who needs protection, needs comfort, needs advocacy, the very system responsible to care for him has failed him and left us all in a state of fear, confusion, and heartbreak. To this day, no one from the jail has shown the basic decency to reach out or acknowledge the damage that he has done, not just to Otto, but to our entire family. His medical concerns are being ignored. His medications are being delayed. His legal rights are being violated. And our cries for help, for answers have been dismissed or completely ignored. He may be incarcerated, but he's still a person. He is still a brother. He is deeply loved. And with the impact of the trauma, didn't stop when the attack ended. It's still here. We're still living in it. And I'm begging you, not just to do better, but be better.
Thank you. Kaylee Shipley.
Good afternoon. My name is Kaylee, and I'm the niece of Otto Dale Harris Rhodes. I'm speaking today not just as a family member, but as someone who has been personally touched and forever changed by this situation. A while ago, when I was in a difficult place and ended up in a juvenile facility, my Uncle Otto heard about it, and he didn't just sit back, he showed up. He made it a point to come talk to me. He reminded me of my worth. He talked to me about where the path I was on could lead and how much more I deserved out of life. He spoke to me like someone who truly cared because he does. That's the kind of man he is. He has always been the backbone of our family, the one who shows up, speaks up, and stands up for those he loves. And that's why it hurts so much to see how this jail has failed him, physically, medically, emotionally, and humanly. I remember hearing my mom on the phone calling the jail, trying to get help because Otto was experiencing chest pain radiating to his left arm. She was terrified. He has blood clots, and we knew how serious that could be. I heard her voice shaking as she begged someone to listen. She made him follow-up calls the next day, only to be told that the nurse hadn't even documented the complaint in his chart. Nothing had been recorded. Nothing had been taken seriously. I've watched my mom and my aunts lose sleep, break down in tears, and lose parts of themselves, trying to find out if he was even still alive, while still trying to protect us, the younger ones, from the trauma that we could have endured knowing our uncle was just attacked. I may not know every detail. I may not know what happened, but I do know this. The jail had prior knowledge of the conflict between Otto and other inmates, and nothing was done. They failed to separate them. They failed to protect them, and now Otto has lost vision in one of his eyes. He's in pain and has received no assistance for his visual impairment. How is that acceptable? This man was attacked by over a dozen people, so I have to ask, where do you house 20-plus violent attackers to keep them separated from each other and from future victims? What systems are in place to stop this from happening again? How do you prevent another family member from going through what mine has if you ignored the warning signs the first time? Otto is not just my uncle, he's a protector, a mentor, and a critical piece of who we are as a family. If we lost him, it would leave a void that can never be filled, and I wouldn't wish this experience on anyone else. To think they may never see their loved one again or just have to watch their mother and aunts lose sleep, sanity, and strength as they fight to be heard. This has scarred us, and the lack of concern for his ongoing medical care has only deepened the wound. We're all asking for someone to finally care, to finally step in, to finally treat him and us like we matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Corey Roma.
Hello, my name is Corey Roma, and I'm here to read a statement on behalf of Otto Harris's sister who couldn't attend but wanted to be heard. Please start the timer now. Good afternoon. My name is Olivia, and I am a sister of Otto Dale Harris Rhodes. I live in North Carolina, and honestly, I am still struggling to find the right words to describe how this has impacted me. Otto is not just my brother. He helped raise me. When I left my mother's house as a child, it was Otto who stepped in. He gave me structure. He gave me safety. He gave me love when I needed it the most. And now he needed the same kind of protection. The jail that was responsible for his care completely failed him. When I first heard something had happened to Otto, I could feel it in my body. I didn't know the details because my family kept a lot of it from me at the time. I was so distraught. They were afraid that telling me everything would break me down further. And in some ways, they were right. Just knowing that something had happened left me sick, anxious, unable to sleep, and constantly afraid. I cannot understand how something like this could happen, how Otto could be attacked by 14 other inmates and no one took steps to prevent it. There had already been a previous fight involving Otto. The jail knew there were issues. There were clear warning signs, and nothing was done to separate the people involved. No proactive steps, no increased monitoring, no intervention. Instead, my brother, who has always been the one to protect others, was left vulnerable, outnumbered, and brutally attacked. The lack of prevention is beyond me, and the lack of response after the fact is even more disturbing. It took over a full day before anyone in the jail contacted our family. By that point, we were panicking, assuming the worst, and piecing together information ourselves just to figure out if my brother was still alive. That is something no family should have to go through. And now, he is still dealing with the consequences of his trauma: vision loss, chest pain, delayed medication, delayed access to legal support, a system that has failed to treat him with even basic human decency. Otto deserves better. He deserves medical care. He deserves protection. He deserves the dignity and safety that any human being deserves, no matter where they are. To you, he may be an inmate, but to me, he is the person who helped raise me. He is my brother, my protector, and one of the most important people in my life. I can't begin to describe what it would do to me or our family if we lost him. And the worst part is we know this never should have happened. The jail had opportunities to prevent this and didn't. Please understand, this has deeply damaged our family, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. The hurt we've experienced watching Otto suffer, especially from states away where we feel helpless, is something we may never fully recover from. Please, don't let this happen to another family. Don't let another sister sit in silence, aching and afraid, wondering if her brother will live to see another day. Otto deserves better, and so does every family who places their trust, however reluctantly, in this system. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly Hickling.
I'm Holly Hickling. I'm from the Goals Switchboard and Human Rights City Alliance. I'm reading a statement from Otto Harris's sister, Olanda. If you could start my time now, that would be awesome. Good afternoon. My name is Olanda, and I'm one of the sisters of Otto Dale Harris Rhodes. I live in North Carolina, and I wrote this statement because what happened to my brother is shaking me to the core. The brutal attack on Otto endured at the Allegheny County Jail was horrifying enough, but the lack of communication, the lack of compassion, and the complete failure by the jail to protect him or even acknowledge our family's desperate concerns has left me mentally and emotionally broken in ways I can barely put into words. When I first heard that something had happened to my brother, I was hundreds of miles away, terrified, helpless, and completely in the dark. We didn't know if he was alive. We didn't know where he was. We didn't know if we'd ever speak to him again. Rumors flooded in, people saying he'd passed away, that he'd lost an eye, that he was clinging to life. And still the jail said nothing, no calls, no updates, no basic human decency. It took 27 hours before anyone at the jail bothered to call us, and even then they told us nothing beyond the fact that he was alive. By that point, we had already figured out what hospital he'd been taken to on our own because we were desperate to know the truth. We weren't trying to break him out, we were trying to figure out if we still had a brother, and the jail treated us like an inconvenience. That kind of neglect isn't just unprofessional, it's inhumane, and it caused emotional damage that I'm still carrying every day. Being far away during a life-threatening attack with no answers, no support, and no way to help left me paralyzed with fear. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I cried constantly. The mental anguish of knowing my brother was nearly beaten to death and I couldn't even get a phone call, that's something I will carry forever. This entire situation was preventable. There had been a prior altercation between Otto and another inmate. That should have been enough for action, but instead of separating them, the jail left them in the same pod, allowing tensions to escalate until Otto was attacked by 14 people in a violent targeted assault. It took 7 minutes for medical help to arrive after a 5-minute beating where staff could not contain the situation. At one point, Otto's body went limp, unconscious, vulnerable, possibly dying. And still, the jail has failed to meet its basic responsibilities. After returning to custody, Otto signed HIPAA and medical release forms so we could get updates, and yet we've received nothing. Attorneys have been denied private access. His chest pain radiating to his left arm, especially concerning given his blood clots, has been brushed off and not documented. His medication has been delayed. His tablet doesn't work, so he can't file a medical grievance. We've called his caseworker to request services for the visually impaired, another result of the attack, but all have been met with silence again. Our emails, our calls, our cries for help have all been met with silence. Otto is more than just an inmate. He's my brother. He's our oldest brother. He's been a protector to us, a guiding voice, and a source of strength for our entire family. I have watched him be there for all of us through heartbreak, hardship, and healing. And now that he's in pain, now that he's scared and vulnerable, he deserves the same. To the jail, Otto might just be another name on a roster, but to me, he's my world.
Alan Gunther.
Hi, my name is Alan Gunther, and I'm the convener of our local chapter of the Pennsylvania Prison Society. We visit people in the jail on the pods where they live, and that way we can speak with anyone who wants to approach us so they can tell us their stories and ask for help. We wanted to say that we appreciated meeting with the warden and his team for 2 hours, and it was a very open meeting, and I know the family notification issue is under review, and I think that's important. But tonight I'd like to tell you about a woman I met in the jail yesterday. She is one of the women participating in the new TAILS program that the warden started recently, and she's been asked to exercise and train a dog named Ellie, who is the size of a beagle with a light brown and white face. Although the woman I met says she badly misses her daughter, her young daughter at home, and she's very sad about that, this dog can make that woman smile. She told me she is working hard to pull her life together so that she can get out and resume her life with a young daughter she loves very much. I spoke with C.O. Cutshaw, who says he notices the improvement in the attitude of the women in the pod and sees now that they have something that they can take pride in. Visiting the pods in the jail, we've noticed some of the COs making the extra effort to help the people under their care. For example, one jail resident told me his tablet wasn't working, and while I was there, the CO got on the phone with IT and fixed the problem on the spot. Men in the restrictive housing unit say good things about CO Panza. Sergeant Marovich arranged for a cell change due to a broken light on the day of a prison society visit. And we should mention that CO Fenstermacher was very helpful when he showed a nervous and confused young man how to file a paper request for a behavioral classification change. Only a few days later, I was very pleased to find out that this young man was released and is getting the treatment he needs. So we all know that there is a lot of work to be done. There are too many people here in the jail on probation detainers and too many people in jail who shouldn't be here. And if anyone watching this meeting would like to contact the Prison Society and request that we see them or check on their loved ones in jail, you can reach us by calling our hotline at 215-564-4775. But tonight, we did want to give some credit to some of the people who are making positive changes, and we hope that they will encourage others to make the jail a more humane place. Thank you.
Hiba Siddiqui.
Hi, my name is Hiba Siddiqui.
Cush Wilkerson and Otto Harris's physical and medical abuse highlight the inability of the ACJ to facilitate mental and physical healing. Now, I'm certain that some members of this board have absolutely no concern for the so-called healing based on how they have spoken about incarcerated individuals, the policies they've advocated for, but as a future therapist, a current domestic violence advocate, and a fellow human being, I do. The officers who physically and sexually assaulted Cush Wilkerson knew he had many well-documented psychiatric disabilities, including PTSD, paranoid schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, and general anxiety disorder. Yet, after Cush expressed his distress, they decided to violently abuse him instead of de-escalating, tasing Cush in the anal area and punching and kicking him while he was already handcuffed. Let it be clear, these officers' behavior is still vile and unacceptable, regardless of Cush's disability status. Still, their instinct to employ excessive force, even when Cush is not a threat, reflects both an individual and systematic propensity to use cruelty rather than care. The ACJ's medical treatment of Otto Harris is no small part of this pattern as well. Otto has inconsistently received his prescribed medication because a nurse doesn't like giving out narcotics, despite having been beaten so badly that he nearly died. His medical needs and requests have been thoroughly ignored, including his request to return to the hospital because he could not breathe. In my domestic violence advocacy trainings, we're taught that withholding medication and preventing victims from attending medical appointments are common abuse tactics used against disabled survivors. It seems the ACJ has been stealing from abusers' playbooks. The ACJ's culture of abuse boils down to the carceral system's underlying logic that your incarceration makes you deserving of inhumane treatment. To this end, I could point out that many residents of the ACJ are pretrial or have probation detainers for technical violations. I could point out how our carceral system has a disproportionate number of low-income residents who have fallen through the gaping holes in our current Social Security blanket. I could point out how Black folks make up 65% of ACJ's population, but only about 11% of the Allegheny County residents. Victims of a structure that hires them last but locks them up first. I could point out all these issues, but at the end of it all, the fact remains that a public safety system that prioritizes hurt over healing is punitive, oppressive, and abusive. The ACJ has been abusive, and no one deserves abuse. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Huang.
Hello, my name is Christina Huang. I'm from New Jersey, and I currently attend the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and I'm here in Pittsburgh, interning for the Abolitionist Law Center. I want to begin to speak about Cush Wilkerson. Mr. Wilkerson was incarcerated on June 5th, 2023. The day right after his bail modification was denied because he was deemed a danger to society, he was violently and sexually assaulted by sergeants and correctional officers. While Mr. Wilkerson is awaiting his trial and presumed innocent until proven guilty, his violent assailants are still working inside the jail. They need to face accountability. Additionally, the leadership that has enabled these officers should be held responsible. Despite being aware that the ACJ officers have a history of excessive force, the former jail warden and the former deputy warden made no attempt to train or discipline its officers, nor did the former warden or former deputy warden train its staff on how to care for people like Mr. Wilkerson with psychiatric disabilities. Due to the jail's complicity, Mr. Wilkerson, only 29 years old, will have to live with these permanent physical and mental injuries for the rest of his life. He's currently experiencing headaches, a worsened memory, a persistent eye glare, nearly daily rectal bleeding, increased anxiety and paranoia, routine nightmares, and vivid flashbacks. This is not a case of a couple of bad apples. Last week at a city council meeting, one ACJ CO compared his job to being a boxer. Another CO tried to justify needing leg shackles and weapons because an incarcerated person tried to bite an artery out of their arm. These COs automatically resort to using force and violence, especially when people are having mental health crises, like trying to bite out an artery. Yes, there's a change with the wardens, but just because it was worse before doesn't mean it's acceptable now. Otto Harris's case is, for example, as his family and loved ones have spoken tonight, Otto has been denied proper medical care. He cannot see, and he has not given access to services for the vision impaired, and his family should be able to visit him. The ACJ officers and staff are continually to actively choose harm to the incarcerated people inside the jail. So not only will the people of Pittsburgh hold you accountable and ACJ accountable, but I want you to know that you have eyes from people like me and people across the country. We are watching, and I don't think this is how you want to be represented to the rest of the country. Thank you.
Maria Guido.
Okay, Maria Guido, Transformative Bonds. I'm here today to talk about the jail lockdowns when they happen. Jail lockdowns have a significant impact on an individual's mental health, particularly for our incarcerated youth. Isolation, the lack of routine, it already overwhelms the stress of incarceration, right? These lockdowns disrupt access to essential treatment, services, and programming, which is critical for their growth, development, and rehabilitation. For incarcerated individuals, especially children, routine provides a sense of emotional safety. So when that routine's disrupted, including basic things like showers and phone calls, it can have this detrimental effect. The ability to maintain contact with loved ones is also critical, especially for co-regulation and emotional support. Imagine being a 15-year-old looking forward to just talking to his mom, and then just be told, calls are canceled, we're locked down, you gotta go back to your cell. Or imagine being that mother who took off work for that day, right, to go and see her son. And she goes down and they say, we're locked down, and send her away. These are the things that these experiences, right, these lockdowns, they intensify these behavioral issues, and it can increase not only, issues with the kids and just people, and also with the staff as well, right? Because they have to manage that stress response that follows. And kids do get upset when they can't see their family. Everybody gets upset when they can't see their family, right? So while safety is undoubtedly a priority within the facility, we must also decrease these practices that can have a long-term effect on the individuals that are serving time. While they're waiting for trial or whatever. I've been impressed with the administration's efforts in supporting the kids. There's definitely been a lot of hope with what you guys have already started to do. So that's why it gives me hope that we can find these alternative solutions to locking down, especially with the kids. Because for the sake of just all incarcerated people, their families, and just everyone involved in the jail. Thanks.
Thank you. Sharon Bonavoglia.
PIN is grateful for the transparency offered to members of the JOB after a troubling incident inside the jail. We encourage this transparency to continue and grow in all areas so that the JOB will be more adequately able to perform their role as oversight for our neighbors residing in the ACJ. I'm also pleased to hear tonight Mr. Perkins and Ms. Hallam's agreement to be discussing family notification, and to know that the policy is being reviewed, especially after the passionate comments from family members tonight. We also want to commend the work of jail administrators in their ongoing fruitful endeavor to hire more COs and staff, and we congratulate and thank those people who are stepping up to care for the residents of the jail. We ask all of those people to embrace the new administration guidance that has already made much needed improvements in the jail. We continue, finally, to strongly encourage both Judge Bigley and President Judge Ivashevik to use their power of the bench to drastically reduce the number of residents in the jail by lifting detainers in a more timely and just fashion, and to utilize their influence with their peers to do the same. This will also be of great benefit to the ongoing staffing issues inside the jail. And if somebody could let Judge Ivashevik know about that, that would be great. And now, if you are able, please rise for the reading of the names of the dead.
Thank you. Yeah.
Richard Lenhart, Robert Blake, Cody Still, Daniel Pastoric, John Brady, Martin Buchek, Robert Harper, Vinkley Harris, Justin Brady, Paul Allen, Roger Millspaw, Paul Spisak, Gerald Thomas, Jerry Lee Ross Jr., Victor Joseph Zelenek, Ronald Andrus, Anthony Tallada, William Spencer, James Washington, Damon Leroy Kays, Tim Menino, Douglas Bonamo, Zachary Som, Nicole Barufi, Richard Shuba II, Terrence Clowney, Tracy Hickey, and Justin McAuliffe. And I am Sharon Bonavolia with the Pennsylvania Interfaith Impact Network, BONAVOGLIA.
That's great. Okay, motion to adjourn. Happy 4th of July. Happy 4th of July. Okay.